stressing about schoolwork,
It's always like if you fail, like your entire future's ruined.
obsessing over social media,
You have to make sure you have like the perfect picture, like the right moment for like everyone else to be like, oh, that's so cool.
and battling bullies.
I guess it's easier for people to be mean over screen than to your face.
What really goes on in the classroom? Teens Tell All in this WPBF 25 News Chronicle special. Safe schools, safe kids. Here are morning anchors Mark Kelly and Aaron Guy.
We know many of you are probably using this weekend to get ready for the first day of school come Monday, so we appreciate you taking the time to invite us into your home this evening.
And over the next hour, we're going to tell you what our schools have been doing this summer to prepare for the big day.
Now, there have been a lot of improvements to security, mental health programs have been added to the curriculum, and so much more.
But we start with the ones who are most impacted by all of this, our kids. We recently sat down with a group of local teenagers who schooled us on what's really going on in their lives. Show of hands, how many of you are on social media? Okay. Do you think it takes over your life?
Sometimes it can be too much of a distraction, like instead of being present, it can kind of take away from like, you know, just living in the moment and stuff,
So what is, isn't there like such a social expectation from social media? Talk to me a little bit about the expectations that you feel every day when you get up, and probably even more when you're in school.
Instead of focusing on just posting what you want to post, you have to think about like who's going to see this, how they're going to respond to it. And then it becomes a game of like who gets more likes, who gets more views, rather than just posting what you feel like you want to share with people.
Yeah, it's like this whole thing of like, you have to make sure you have like the perfect picture, like the right moment for like everyone else to be like, oh, that's so cool. And then you have to like base like everything you do off of other people's opinions, and yeah.
So, Aaliyah, do you actually feel a sense of competition at school over?
Especially at school, because everyone's like, oh, did you see her post? I'm like, no. And they're like, oh. I'm like, yeah. So I feel like everyone's like basing like all of their like life around what people are doing, what they're posting, and how they post it, and everything like that.
Do you ever feel like it's not really real life?
Yeah. Especially on Instagram.
So do you think your parents get social media? Do you think they understand what you're doing?
No.
Do you think they think they get what you're doing?
Yeah.
So what are you doing that they don't get?
If you tell them that Snapchat deletes after 24 hours, their mind just, they can't understand that.
They get like,
They don't understand that it deletes.
and they're like, oh my god, what are you posting then? It's like, I'm not posting anything bad, it's just a picture.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my gosh, stop. And no.
They get a little freaked out by the whole like disappearing thing.
Yeah.
Like their mind always jumps to the worst place, like any parent, I guess, but it's not, like most of us aren't doing bad things with it.
Do you feel like the bullies are pretty much only using online bullying? They're not bullying you in person at all anymore, or is it a little bit of both?
There's different people who do it different ways.
Different ways.
Because my friend, she went through cyberbullying, and like no one like at school like talked about it, but on social media it blew up. It was like all over Snapchat, all over Instagram, and it was like, you guys can like do this behind the phone, but you can't, you know, do it to her face, and that's wrong. And I mean, bullying is wrong either way, but like not being able to like confront the person about something, it's just on a different level.
So overall, do you think your social media that you've admitted is a big part of your life makes you feel good about yourself, or makes you feel actually not that great about yourself?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Like, for the most part, it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to communicate with friends. It's a good like platform to get important issues across. But sometimes it takes a turn in the wrong direction.
It doesn't really take control of me, so I feel happy about it.
But then on top of this, you have the Parkland shooting that happened just miles down the road from us. So school safety. Show of hands, do you feel safe at school? You do feel safe. Is there anything your school could do to make you feel even more safe?
I think my school has done a pretty good job of tackling it, and there was like a lot of student-led like involvement against to become aware of what's happening in our society today. But I think for the most part, the schools and we have done the most that we can, and it's just up to other people now.
You don't want the school to feel like a prison.
Do you think that your parents make you more anxious about it? Because as a parent, you're very nervous because you're losing control, sending your child to school. Do they make you feel even more nervous about it than you really would be on your own?
Yeah.
Really?
I feel like they make it like a bigger deal than when it's like said to be, because I feel like parents are like, oh, that's my child. Like, I need to do everything in my power to protect my child. And I feel like when they can't be the only thing that's protecting them, they get frantic about it, and it's yeah.
For me, I think it's more I mean, obviously my parents worry about me, but I think if I feel safe, then they feel safe, because I think they know that I'm there, I'm in this school. So I think as long as I feel good, they feel good about it.
They were so honest with us. Now, the students' parents watched that interview from another room, and they had a lot to say as well, especially when it comes to their kids on social media. You're going to hear from them a little later.
The teens also talked to us about mental health and depression. And get this, they all know someone going through it. We also asked them about one of the biggest stresses in their life, and what that is might actually surprise you.
But in the meantime, take a look at this map. It shows the 36 Florida counties that the Florida Department of Education says are currently participating in the Guardian program, which allows school employees to carry a gun at school. Now, it is just one of the safety measures put in place after the deadly mass shooting at Stoneman Douglas High School.
Okeechobee County is the only school district in our area participating, and the board just voted to take it a step further to arm teachers as well. It's a decision that's getting overwhelming support from the community.
We did a survey, so we did see where the majority of our population was for it. Okay. We just want to protect our kids.
The community spoke and the school board listened, and Superintendent Ken Kenworthy is on board.
62% of our parents were in favor of that. We had a majority of our staff members that were in favor of it.
And a majority of teachers and community members are too. Kenneth Feitner says that he's thrilled that his wife, who's a teacher, will have the opportunity to carry while at school.
We know each other here, we trust each other, and so I think that has a big factor.
Earlier this year, Florida expanded the Coach Aaron Feist Guardian program, allowing districts to decide if they want to arm classroom teachers. The program is named after the late Aaron Feist, the Stoneman Douglas High School football coach, hailed a hero, giving his life while shielding students from bullets during the Parkland shooting. Now that the board voted, what happens next? Kenworthy says it's now up to the teachers to decide if they want to go through with the program.
They would express their interest. They would notify their supervisor confidentially. That information would get to me, and then our screening process would begin. The training program that these individuals have to go through is very rigorous. 144-hour training that is scheduled and put on by the sheriff's office.
And ultimately, the sheriff and the superintendent make the final call. Who can carry a weapon into the school?
I feel very comfortable with the Guardian program that we have in place already, and think that expanding it to the classroom is only going to make our schools that much safer.
It's unclear just how soon teachers in Okeechobee County will be able to carry. They're still finalizing training and a timeline.
Now, just last month, the father of one of the students killed in the Parkland shooting went through the training to become an honorary guardian.
Talking about Ryan Petty, he says he did it so that no parent will ever have to suffer the grief that he's experienced.
I, Ryan Petty, do solemnly swear.
It's an oath this Parkland father never wanted to take. It was training that really pushed him.
There were points during this training where I questioned, why am I here? What am I doing? It's that intense.
But Ryan Petty did it all for his daughter Elena, who he'll never see grow up. He even documented his training, sharing it with the world. And after 160 hours of training, weeks away from home and weeks away from his family, it led him to accepting his honorary guardian status.
I know I can't talk much about my classmates, but they are my heroes. Because they've decided to step up and be that person that's going to stop that evil in our schools. Thank you. I wish you had been there for my daughter.
Though details of the 160-hour course are kept tight to the vest, and many counties are opting out of arming teachers, Petty remains confident every county needs a plan in place.
There shouldn't be any question in the state of Florida, or quite frankly anywhere in the country, about what we should be doing to protect our kids and our teachers in our schools. And you need to put a program in place that will close the gap from the time that evil perpetrator enters that school until these deputies can come running in to help stop it. And by the time they can get here, these guardians are the only thing, they're that last great line of defense. They're the only thing standing between that evil and our kids.
Well, the Palm Beach County School District's maintenance team has been busy this summer, completing a list of 200 different projects to make school campuses safer. That includes adding new fencing, security cameras, access card readers, creating single points of entry, and changing traffic patterns coming in and out of school parking lots. Now, all security upgrades are expected to be complete by September of next year. And in Martin County, the school district added a new portal to house their emergency response plan. Police will have access to a video map of each campus so they know exactly where to go in the event of an emergency. All students will also wear a badge this year. They'll have to swipe every time they go on and off the school bus, buy a lunch, or check out a book from the library. This will all help the district keep track of their students. Well, safety in the classroom can also start in the palm of your kids' hands.
In fact, this year, all of our school districts are encouraging students to download the Fortify FL app. It allows them to instantly report a tip or suspicious activity to law enforcement. They select the school where it's happening from in a drop-down menu, give a brief description, attach a photo or video if there is one, and then hit send. It automatically then notifies the nearest law enforcement.
Could be life-saving.
Absolutely. Another part of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Act requires all Florida schools to participate in monthly drills.
Now, those drills are so that students know exactly what to do during any type of emergency. Your kids did them last year and are probably very familiar with them.
So parents, here's what you need to know about them. Code red means total lockdown, no movement. Code yellow is a lockdown with limited movement from the school's crisis response team. Code blue is an evacuation or shelter in place. Code white is a bomb threat. And code green is all clear.
Now, schools notify parents immediately following the drill with a recorded phone message, an email, or text. That's why it's so important the school has your updated cell phone numbers and your email addresses.
Coming up next on Safe Schools, Safe Kids. In the digital age, bullying doesn't stop at the end of the school day. Your child's bully could be hiding behind a screen around the clock. Next, a child psychologist reveals why jumping to your child's defense isn't always the answer. But first, a growing trend disguised as everyday school supplies.
I was totally shocked. I feel like I try to be an informed parent.
The 3 warning signs to recognize before your teen causes irreversible brain damage.
Welcome back. Do you know what this is? Chances are your kids do.
Nope, not a USB. It's called an e-cigarette, and many teenagers call it juuling. It's named after the popular vape company, and the number of teens doing this reaching a record high last year.
Nearly 3 million high school students admit they've juuled in the past year. A recent survey found 37% of high school seniors and just over 32% of sophomores admitted to vaping in the past year. And it's not just a high school problem. 1 in 10 8th graders say they've also tried it. Students caught with them at school face suspension or expulsion.
And doctors say that all these kids who are trying it are putting their health at risk. For decades, parents, PSAs all warned about the dangers of cigarettes. But it's 2019 and e-cigarettes are all the rage.
I mean, yeah, especially a lot of kids do it now for some reason. I never really understood why.
E-cigarettes, vaping, juuling, whatever you call it. Health professionals like Dr. Selena Moore with Advanced Pediatrics of Boca are sounding the alarm.
Vaping has been marketed as a safe alternative to cigarette smoking, and it is not. It is not. There are very large quantities of nicotine in the pods of the vape or the e-cigarettes.
Take the Juul brand, a popular one. A single nicotine pod has as much nicotine as 20 cigarettes. The U.S. Surgeon General recently declared teen vaping use as an epidemic.
We are dealing with a brain that's not fully developed yet. And in a pediatric and adolescent brain, the possibility of addiction is very, very high.
And vaping is especially popular with teens because of its design. Looking like a pen or a flash drive, teens can easily conceal e-cigarettes from adults at home and at school.
I try to be an informed parent, and I was totally taken by surprise.
That was Deborah Jaffe's reaction when her middle school son got caught with a vape pen at school.
I would have never been able to tell you that it was a vape. It looked like a pen. It looked like something you put into a hard drive.
So how can you spot the warning signs that your child is using? It can be jitteriness, fast heart rate, and sluggishness. But these are not always the easiest symptoms to spot. Bottom line, Dr. Moore says parents should tell their kids the dangers of vaping early, before they're hooked.
Anything that you begin that's addictive before the age of 21 is ingrained in your brain, and it is so difficult to quit afterwards.
Now, just last month, a top Juul executive testified on Capitol Hill that his company never intended for kids and teenagers to use their products, that it was marketed towards adults who wanted to stop smoking. He also said his company has made it a priority to combat underage use.
Another issue so many kids have to face every single day is bullying. 1 in 4 students say they've been bullied. 1 in 3 admit they've been the bully. But it's not just happening in the classroom. Bullies are in your child's hands all day long.
So a lot of things about bullying have changed over the course of many years. One of the things that has not changed about bullying is that the signs can remain similar to the way that they always have been.
However, Dr. Rafi Wald says trying to identify those signs isn't always easy.
They're hiding a lot of times. Their problems, their emotional problems, will turn into what we call somatic complaints.
He says look for your child to complain about stomach aches, sore throat without any real medical issue, refusing to go to school, and just an overall change in their personality. So if your child is being bullied, what do you do?
Don't overreact if you don't need to overreact, because that can make things worse. If you feel that your child is in any sort of physical danger, obviously you can be an alarmist at that point.
And have you ever thought about this? What if your child is the bully? Dr. Wald says you'll likely notice some kind of a change. Perhaps your child is more aggressive than usual.
Broadly, some kind of changes in behavior, but also you might notice that certain kids don't want to spend time with your child. That's a good sign that, if nobody wants to be friends with them.
Bottom line, talk to your kids. And he says do not think twice about having access to all their social media accounts. He says that's the key to knowing exactly what's going on in your child's life.
Each school district we spoke to say they have programs for students to report bullies. The Palm Beach County School District has a hotline set up. The number right there on your screen, 561-434-8200.
Coming up next on Safe Schools, Safe Kids, setting the record straight.
We're not stealing money. We don't steal students.
We're debunking the most common misconceptions about charter schools in South Florida. Plus, the governor got rid of it, but Common Core still isn't going away in the classroom. The timeline in place to switch up the standards for good.
Who could forget these protests that pitted Palm Beach County public schools against charter schools back in May?
Now, the issue is over voter-approved property tax increase to help fund teacher salaries and security at public schools, but not charter schools.
Charter schools say not so fast. They deserve that money too.
Now, I sat down with one of the largest charter school operators in our state for their side of this education debate.
Here in Palm Beach, our schools are moving, and we're really excited about that.
Eddie Ruiz oversees 6 charter schools in Palm Beach County and dozens across Florida. Working in both the classroom and administration, he spent years in public schools before making the switch.
We can make decisions quicker, swifter for our students and our schools. There are statutes in legislation that allow us flexibility to not follow all those things that, district schools have to go through. I would call the red tape.
State law gives charters flexibility in a number of areas. For security, instead of SROs, they're allowed to have SSOs, essentially armed security guards. And what about curriculum? Well, charter students still take the FSA like public schools, but they are allowed to change up that curriculum. For example, here at Renaissance Charter, every child K through 8 gets a whole 90 minutes of a foreign language.
And what I'm really proud of, and I want to share that with you, is that when we look at the state of Florida for our charter school network, last year, with 59 schools, we were 67% A's and B's. This year, 82% A's and B's.
Big change.
Big change.
Charter school enrollment has taken off in Florida in 20 years at nearly 300,000 students. But critics say those students leaving public for charter schools are leaving public schools with less money. That's a criticism Ruiz calls a misconception.
The money follows the child. It so happens to come to, if a charter school is the place where a parent wants to take their child or a family wants to take their child, the money follows them.
Bottom line, Ruiz says education should come down to choice.
I'm a true believer. If we're not doing something different than the school down the street that is a district school, then we shouldn't exist.
This most recent legislative session was a big win for charter schools. The governor signed into law that any future tax increases for new school programs and teacher pay will have to be shared with both public and charter schools.
Next on Safe Schools, Safe Kids. No shots, no school, no kidding.
It is a frustrating topic to go over again and again.
The growing movement, health experts say, could be responsible for the next big outbreak. But first, from a school shooter to a canceled football game, the new tool being used to spread the word to parents and students as quickly as possible. You're watching WPBF 25 News Chronicle. Safe schools, safe kids.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. If you asked your kids right now what stresses them out the most, what do you think they would tell you?
We recently asked that question to a group of local high school students. We thought maybe they would say family, friends, or peer pressure.
But their answer really surprised us and their parents, who were watching the entire interview from another room. So what's worse, the social media pressures of everyday life in high school or the academic pressures?
Academics. Mostly it just has to do with trying to do good in school.
Yeah.
Like, that's so much pressure on yourself and from your teachers and from your parents. Like, it's a very stressful environment, especially in the middle of like testing season and everything, because like you're thinking about college and you're thinking about like your future, and like it just can be a lot in a short span of time.
Do you feel like most of the pressure is from the teacher or the parents? Matt, let me ask you that.
Teachers. Because they, one of my teachers, they rated our test 75% of our grade. So if you do bad on one test, you're gonna fail the class. So I think that's more pressure from the teachers than our parents trying to encourage us to do well.
Matthew is a junior in high school and he's already got 8 college credits and he's gonna dual enroll and that was his doing. And I was the one saying, honey, let me call your guidance counselor. Maybe this is too much. Maybe you shouldn't do this. And the guidance counselor's like, he's going to be bored. No, he'll be fine. And he tells me, Mom, I'm fine.
Hearing your daughter say about, her peer pressure about the day, and it's like, at the end of the day, she needs to relieve stress. And I'm going like, oh my God, it's like she's feeling all the pressures that we do as adults. But it's because, I guess, what they're putting on themselves as well.
I think my parents do a really good job because they just encourage me and they know that I'm trying my best, and like a lot of the pressure does come from myself in my experience, but they just encourage me and they're there for me, and like when I'm going through a lot, they always can talk me down, and they're like, it's just one thing at a time, you got this, like you can handle it.
That's the same for me. They encourage me, and I just like be in my room, and that's when I do my homework and stuff, and they just leave me in there just to do it because they know I'm doing it, and they don't want to bother me.
So how do you deal with that? So you got a big test coming up, or you have the FSAs, whatever it is coming up. How do you deal with that pit in your stomach anxiety before that?
I do study groups with my friends.
To relieve the anxiety?
Yeah, and that helps, but still you just have to, especially with ACE exams or FSAs, you know that it's one exam for the entire class can just decide if you get the credit or not. So that's a big deal. So that can be stressful.
Well, I swim. I swim competitively, and I think that helps me because it is just swimming back and forth. So it helps
clears
me.
Your mind.
Yeah, it clears my mind, and it's something that I really like to do. So that helps me.
Joshua, what do you do?
I play video games. That helps me. Because now I'm just having fun at the moment, and then that's when I get back. Take a break from all the stress, and then just go back, and then you go back to your work.
Do you think your life as a teenager is more stressful with more pressures than your parents' life as a teenager?
Yeah.
So you have more choices, which is a good thing, but it could be overwhelming.
Yeah. I think it's hard because you have so many influences around you. I mean, some are good, some are bad, but it's when you go home, it's okay, so I have to put on a different face in front of other people.
You always want to be in. You always want to fit in. You always want to be popular at the top, whatever. So it's hard sometimes when you don't feel like you're like the coolest, or I don't know how to really put it, but.
So what do you do when you feel that way?
Honestly, it's just sometimes you get sad, sit in your room, like do whatever, and then with the social media, it makes it worse too.
It's really tiring. Like, it's just like I always feel tired.
You always feel tired.
Yeah, just of having to deal with everything, and you're like, everything's so stressful, and like you come home and you just think about all the things that you have left to do, and like you just get through one day to go to the next day. Then the weekend comes and you think about the homework that you have to do, and you try and have fun, but then you're like, I have to do my homework. Then you're like, you have everything on top of that, and you're just like, I'm just tired.
I asked the question, do you think that your lives as teenagers are more stressful than your parents' lives? They said, yeah. Yes. Do you agree that their lives are more stressful?
Absolutely.
I believe so, yeah.
Absolutely.
I agree. I mean, I can relate to some of the things my dad did, but I know that Joshua cannot relate to the things that I did, because I remember growing up, and there was no Cartoon Network, there wasn't 24 hours, there was nothing. And if you thought about a video game, that never existed.
So do you feel like either you or someone you know right now in your circle of friends suffers from depression?
Yeah.
To the point where you worry about them?
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Do you feel like they're getting the help they need?
No. It's not taken seriously with teenagers, I don't think.
Pretty bold statement there. Now, there is no question that mental health is one of the biggest issues facing our students.
And starting this year, our schools are making it one of the biggest priorities by adding mental health education to the curriculum. Florida is mandated that all students grades 6 through 12 receive 5 hours per year of mental health education. We also asked the 5 school superintendents from the Palm Beaches to the Treasure Coast what they're doing this school year to address students' mental health.
We were very fortunate that taxpayers allowed us to pass a 1 cent, one full meal on a referendum. So that has afforded us the opportunity to put a mental health professional in every school in the district. We're also increasing the number of psychologists by 40 for district-wide. So that allows us to have what we call CAPE teams, or triage teams, in the most severe cases.
We recently passed a referendum with our voters, and that we'll have additional counselors now in our school centers. We'll have behavior technicians in our schools. We'll have behavior analysts in our schools, and social workers that get to go back out to the families and meet with the families.
Well, Okeechobee's really been ahead of the curve, and we've had multiple schools that had full-time therapists that we've contracted with certain agencies. So we already have boots on the ground in most of our schools, and so we're very fortunate with the new legislation, or the new directive from the Department of Education for the 5 hours. We already have curriculums in place, actually kindergarten through 8th grade, so we need to fine-tune what we're doing at the high school to be able to meet that.
We have a mental health assistance plan that goes to the school board for approval, and it really focuses on our whole approach to addressing mental health instruction for our students.
We have increased the interest in mental health among our teachers, but we also have social service workers that are providing counseling to students, and especially for our teachers, if you notice behavior in a student, to be able to obviously report this so that we can get help to students.
And this is why many people say mental health should be part of the curriculum. It's estimated that 1 in 5 teens will experience depression, and suicide is the 3rd leading cause of death among kids and teenagers. So how can you tell if your child is struggling with depression? We asked the experts to weigh in.
Mental health among our young people right now has never been more urgent.
And that is why Reed Alexander with Retreat Behavioral Health says the new state mandate is a good start. It requires at least 5 hours of mental health education every year for students starting in the 6th grade.
Among kids 10 to 24, suicide is the 3rd most prevalent cause of death.
Mental health professional Liza Pekarsky says hidden in these alarming statistics is the reality of our tech-driven culture. She says social media can distort a child's reality.
The more connected we become as a society in terms of cell phones and Instagram and Facebook and iWatches, everything that we have connects us, yet it disconnects us interpersonally.
But even with classroom time devoted to mental health, Peter Shore with Retreat Behavioral Health says that having a student's family on board can be a game changer.
If you're a parent and you can see changes in behavior of your child, different patterns that are going on, you could identify these things quick.
Behavior changes include a persistent feeling of sadness, a loss of interest in activities, sleeping too much or insomnia, and changes in appetite. These are all potential warning signs. Still, as parents, simply being there for our kids is the most important thing we can do.
Sometimes kids don't want a response. They don't want someone to solve their problems. That's what they're used to. But we often just need to have somebody to listen to.
While mental health is being added to the curriculum, Common Core is coming off of it.
In January, Governor Ron DeSantis signed an executive order to phase out the controversial set of teaching standards for language arts and math.
So students won't see any changes to the curriculum or testing schedule until next school year because the new standards are still being discussed.
So here's where things stand. Right now, the state is asking for the public's input on what changes should be made to the current standards. Public hearings on those suggestions will be held in September and in October. Then the proposals will be sent to the Florida Education Commissioner in December, and then to the governor and the Florida legislature come January. The State Board of Education will get their revised draft for final approval in February.
Now, this school year, Palm Beach County is launching a new tool to send emergency alerts to parents and to students. For example, severe weather during after-school events. Meteorologist Sandra Shaw shows you how easy texting works.
Last year at Jupiter High School, the National Weather Service issued a severe thunderstorm warning. Numerous coaches and teams were practicing at the time. Easy Text warned them all of the lightning risk.
National Weather Service had issued a lightning threat. And during the school day and even in the evenings, we have a lot of students on staff and staff on the campus, and they're practicing sports. So we're able to enact it quickly and notify them to get off the fields and take shelter.
Diana Fernandez is the assistant principal and says anything that helps keep the 3,200 plus kids and their community informed is a good thing. She said the system worked great last spring.
In emergency situations, it's to get the word out quickly. In today's day and age, we have students and families that always have a phone accessible, so it's a quick and easy response from us in case of lightning strikes, emergency situations, that we can inform our students quickly and get them in shelters or get them safely in place.
Easy Text really is easy. All you have to do, for instance, at Jupiter High School is text the code word, in this case, Warriors, to 484848. The emergency notifications go out to everything from a school shooter to a game being canceled or delayed due to weather. The notifications also issue specific instructions on where the students should go and seek shelter, for instance.
They can easily access any quick response to get them in certain places or safe out of harm's way.
Coming up next on Safe Schools, Safe Kids. Taking a hit on the field is hard to avoid. Doctors reveal their best piece of advice to prevent any permanent damage. Plus, as summer break winds down, your child's anxiety level may be going up. The surefire way to shake out those first day jitters.
Welcome back. With the measles outbreak across the country, the topic of vaccines is back in the headlines.
New York has the largest number of cases, but it's also popping up in several states, including Florida. And once again, we're addressing the age-old question about the safety of vaccines.
You should, by and large, be not scared by a measles epidemic.
Dr. Chad Sanborn is a pediatric infectious disease specialist at St. Mary's Medical Center, and he says if you have a child in school, they have likely been vaccinated against the measles. He says though science has proved over and over again that all required vaccines are safe, he's still faced with those who choose not to vaccinate.
It's a community. We have to think of each other and trying to stress that, but it is a frustrating topic to go over again and again.
Dr. Sanborn says just because an unvaccinated child has a healthy immune system and might be able to fight off a disease, they could still come in contact with someone who doesn't.
At the moment, you're fine, but say your child, your family member has to go on an immune suppressive medication, steroids for a long time, chemotherapy or something to that effect, that immunity that you previously had can go away and you can be susceptible once again to infection.
Which is why Dr. Sanborn stresses that vaccines are safe and is even the first to say his children are fully vaccinated. But he says with a growing concern over vaccines, expect to see more outbreaks like the measles.
There is a consistent and, depending on the time of the year and where you are in the country, growing movement of people who are concerned and don't want to give vaccines. I think as that continues, we will see continued outbreaks of things like measles, chickenpox, other vaccine-preventable diseases potentially come back.
Different grades have different immunization requirements, so be sure to check if your child needs shots to start school on Monday.
And also keep this in mind. Every school district in our area has a strict policy. They call it no shots, no school, no kidding.
Well, a lot of parents are also concerned because of the recent hepatitis A outbreak.
Yeah, so doctors have this advice. Remind your kids to wash their hands. They say it's the best way to protect themselves. Well, now to another potentially dangerous medical condition that affects so many students. According to the CDC, an estimated 15% of high schoolers have suffered at least one concussion. And the #1 cause of those injuries? Sports.
Sandra Shaw spoke with a local doctor who says some simple exercises could lower the risk of injury.
When in doubt, sit somebody out. If there's any suspicion of a concussion, get them off the field.
Dr. Matthew Fazekas says that's the key rule when it comes to kids and concussions. He sees students come in all too frequently at his post at Joe DiMaggio Children's Health Specialty Center in Wellington.
Unfortunately, multiple times per day.
A concussion is a mild traumatic brain injury that causes an energy crisis in the brain, and you'll notice something isn't quite right.
You want to look for headache, changes in their mental status, changes in how they're acting.
Rest is the best medicine for a concussion, but Dr. Fazekas says there is a way to help prevent concussions altogether.
We actually recommend cervical and neck strengthening exercises. By strengthening the cervical muscles and stabilizing the head, neck, and chest axis, you can dampen and reduce the rotational force, leading to potentially decreasing the risk for concussion.
Dr. Fazekas is skeptical of new devices like helmets or headbands that claim to help prevent concussions. His best advice to parents is to just prevent additional injuries after the initial hit.
From that first time walking into kindergarten to senior year, it's so common for students to feel nervous on the first day of school.
We're all there.
Yeah.
But as parents, there are steps we can take to try and ease those first day jitters. Psychologist Dr. Rafi Wald says if you have an opportunity for your child to visit their school before their first day, certainly do that. It can be reassuring to know where their classes are, meet their teachers, and have a play date with their friends again before that first day back.
Anytime you can ease someone into something by letting them see it beforehand rather than just throwing them into it all together at once, that's going to be a much better situation, especially if you have a child that tends to be anxious or have a hard time with change.
Dr. Wald says parents can often be anxious about the first day of school too, but for different reasons than the kids. If you're feeling that way, Dr. Wald says to try repeating this mantra to yourself.
Ask yourself that question. How many times have I left my child, with someone that I trust? How many times have I had major problems afterwards? And for almost everybody, the answer is going to be none.
Well, parents, we know many of you may be a little bit nervous too for Monday.
Very normal. So as we go to break, our 5 area school superintendents have these first day of school messages for you.
The first day is one of the most important days, that we want them to feel welcomed. We want them to know that we value their input and that each one of them are very important to us, and we want to partner, and we want our students to be ready to learn. We're going to be ready for them to come and learn, and we're all in this together, and we're going to have a successful school year.
So our objective for the first day of school is to get the students there, get them fed, get them home. So that's our objective. We realize that lots of schedules have to come together. We realize that lots of parents want to take their students to school the first day, so the traffic is going to be extraordinarily heavy on those days. I just ask them to be patient with us.
Be early, get there early. There'll be a lot of traffic, and there'll be a few kinks. There always are, when 40,000 students are coming back to school. To be patient, but to make sure that they're ready to go.
Be on time and have fun. Have a great day. And we really look forward to an exciting school year for the Martin County School District, where we want to educate all students for success.
On the first day, be patient with us. As 900 plus buses get back on the roads, and hundreds of thousands of parents try to figure out how to navigate to get their kids to school on time. Lines will be long in the beginning. Lunch lines will be long. Kids have forgotten their numbers. And, so as we work through the kinks, the last couple of years we've had very good starts to the year. I anticipate another great start. But I do ask people to be patient with us until everyone kind of gets settled in their routines.
We want to take this moment to thank the 5 students who provided such valuable insight into their lives and talk so openly about what's really going on.
Now, we ended our interview with this question. What was the best piece of advice you've ever received from your parents? Here's what they had to say.
I think probably just taking things one thing at a time, like not letting yourself get overwhelmed by everything that you have to do, because they're very busy people too. So like just one thing, focus on one thing, and then you can get through the rest.
For me, they say do good things, so then good things can come back to you. So like if you do the bad thing will come back to you, and they want to prevent that, and so they could say that.
I think it's just, well, with my parents, like, anytime I'm down or feel bad about myself, I know my mom's always like, you're beautiful, like, you just need to be yourself, like, do what makes you happy. Don't focus on trying to please others and stuff. Just always be true to yourself and try and do what makes you happy, and know that, like, you're awesome. Like, your feelings are the only feelings that should matter to you. So
my mom always says, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. She means that you only go as far as the people who are around you allow you to go.
My mom always says that you only have, you can count your closest friends on one hand, and I truly believe that, because right now in high school I have like 100 friends I talk to every day, but it's like I know at the end of the day I have maybe 2 people I can like truly count on. And that's like one thing I need to like always remember.
See, they are listening.
Very impressive students, for sure. All right, we want to thank you for allowing us to be a part of your night.
We hope the past hour has helped prepare you and your kids for the first day of school.
Well, your WPBF 25 News morning team, we're going to be up bright and early on Monday morning, providing you live team coverage as you head out the door.
From all of us here, good night.